Before I tell you how to fight your way through the hardest day you have ever had, let me first walk you through something that most people get completely wrong about what fighting actually means. Because if you go into this with the wrong definition, you will exhaust yourself trying to be something you do not need to be today. Most people think fighting means overpowering, that getting up and fighting means being fierce and loud and visibly formidable, the kind of strength that looks like strength from the outside, that performs itself for the benefit of whoever is watching. That is not fighting. That is performing. And on the hardest days, the days when the weight is real and the energy is gone and the reason to keep going has gone quiet, performing is not available. You do not have it, and trying to manufacture it will drain the last reserves you have. Real fighting, the kind that matters, the kind that actually moves you through the impossible days, is quieter than that. It is getting out of the bed when you do not want to. It is making the phone call you have been avoiding. It is eating the meal, taking the medication, doing the thing that keeps the foundation intact when the foundation is all that is left. It is staying in the room when leaving would be so much easier. It is choosing, one more time, not to give the hardest day the satisfaction of being the day you stopped. That is the fight. And you are more capable of it than you know. Let me show you 3 people who fought their way through days that would have finished most people, and what they found waiting on the other side. Welcome to Motivation Daily. Think about Nelson Mandela. Not the icon, not the symbol, but the man in the cell on Robben Island, breaking rocks in a lime quarry under the South African sun, with no end date on his imprisonment, and no guarantee that any of it would ever amount to anything beyond suffering. 27 years. 2,754 days of confinement, of separation, of watching his children grow up in photographs, of a movement he had devoted his life to carrying on without him in ways he could not control or guide. There were days in those years that history does not record, days when the weight of it must have been almost unsurvivable, days when the fight was not political or philosophical, but deeply, privately human. Just the decision to get through this day, to not be broken by this particular Tuesday, to eat the food and do the labor and go to sleep and wake up and do it again, because stopping was not something he was willing to do even when stopping would have been entirely understandable. The fight on those days was not heroic. It was just relentless. And it produced one of the most extraordinary human beings the world has ever witnessed. Now, think about Bethany Hamilton, the surfer who lost her arm to a shark attack at 13 years old and returned to competitive surfing 1 month later. But what I want to focus on is not the return. It is the days between the attack and the return. The days in the hospital when she could not surf and did not know if she ever would again. The days at home when the phantom pain in the arm that was no longer there woke her in the night, and she lay in the dark trying to understand who she was without the thing that had defined her since she was a child. The days when other people's pity felt more suffocating than the loss itself. The days when getting up was the entire achievement. Not training, not competing, not inspiring anyone. Just getting vertical. Just choosing to be present in a body that had been permanently changed by something she did not choose. Those days were the fight, not the triumphant return to the water. The private, unglamorous, completely unwatched fight of a teenager deciding, one morning at a time, that she was still a surfer, that the shark had taken her arm but not her identity, that the ocean was still hers, and she was going to get back to it if she had to relearn everything from the beginning. And think about Frida Kahlo, the Mexican artist whose work now hangs in the most prestigious museums in the world, and whose image has become one of the most recognizable in the history of modern art. What most people know about Kahlo is the art. What fewer people sit with long enough is the pain. At 18, Kahlo was involved in a catastrophic bus accident that left her with a broken spinal column, a broken collarbone, broken ribs, a shattered pelvis, 11 fractures in her right leg, a crushed and dislocated right foot, and a steel handrail that impaled her through the hip. She spent 3 months in a body cast, and the rest of her life in recurring excruciating pain that required over 30 surgical procedures. She painted lying on her back, using a special easel her mother had built, with a mirror above her so she could use her own face, the only subject always available to her, as a canvas. The fight on her hardest days was to pick up the brush, to translate the pain into pigment, to refuse to let the body that had been so brutally broken be the thing that stopped the art. She did not fight by overpowering the pain. She fought by painting through it. And what she produced in those sessions, raw, visceral, searingly honest paintings that made the world look at suffering and beauty simultaneously, has outlasted everything except the work itself. Here is what those 3 fights have in common. None of them required the person to feel strong. None of them required the performance of invincibility. All of them required only one thing: the decision, made in the specific conditions of a specific hard day, to not let that day be the one where they stopped. That decision is available to you right now, in whatever version of the hard day you are currently in. You do not need to feel like a fighter. You just need to make the fighter's decision. Get up. Do the next thing. Stay in the room. That is the fight, and you are already in it, which means you are already winning it. Share this with someone who is in the middle of a hard day and needs to know that getting up is already winning. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. We show up every single day for the people who are still fighting. Drop a comment and tell me, what does the fight look like for you today? Not the heroic version, the real one. Name it. Owning it is the next step. Let's go.